Hi, I'm Johannes Haar. I'm here with Fly Gym Aerial Fitness, and today what I'm going to be talking to you about is flexibility. One of the things that has become really popular with Fly Gym is that this is a really great way to help you stretch your splits. So I've seen that a lot with pole dancers, aerialists, gymnasts, using Fly Gym as a way to stretch your splits in the air, because kind of what we say is like, oh, well, it cheats your splits because you look like you can sink down further into them, because you can open up into them. Here's the thing with this, is that there is still a very intricate technique about how to stretch your splits in the Fly Gym. And if you do not have a split on the ground, just because you can kind of put your legs in the Fly Gym and kind of get all the way into that full extension, doesn't mean that you should. Because if you're going into that full extension in that full split without having the right warm-up, without having the right capabilities within your body first, then what's going to happen is we get things like muscle tears, which is really, really not good. So we want to be really careful about how we go into stretching our splits. So the first thing is that you want to make sure that you're warmed up first. A full split is not going to be something that you do in the beginning. It's not going to be your first stretch in the Fly Gym. You're going to want to do a dynamic warm-up about at least 10-15 minutes. Then you're going to want to do preparation stretches. The last stretch that you do, so if you want to stretch your splits, the last stretch that you're doing that day is the split stretching. Before we get into splits, we're going to have to open up hip flexors, glutes, hamstrings, calves, a little bit of spinal extension as well. So I'm going to show you a few things that you can do first before you get into that actual split stretching. So I have my Fly Gym set up right here. I have the main sling at about hip or waist height. I'm going to have the side loops a little bit below that. So when I've got the main sling up here, the side loops are 2 notches down below that. And that's going to give me enough space to kind of maneuver through this. So what I'm going to start first is in a rib cage hold. This main sling is going to come behind my upper back. I'm getting my arms on top of it. I'm going to walk backwards so that there's some tension in the fabrics. Then I'm going to take my arms into the side loops. So we're starting out with just a couple warm-up moves, maybe take a couple steps forward. So it should kind of look like you're sitting in a reclining chair. So knees over the ankles, shoulders rolled back and down. And I'm just going to start to gently stretch my body side to side. So opening up through one side, pushing back, opening up through the other side. So I'm just kind of getting used to moving in the hammock, going back and forth with control. Now what happens is that we want to keep this bent knee pointing straight ahead, knee above the ankle. Because if we don't, if we just kind of let go completely, you're going to spin all the way around. So we want to be doing this with proper alignment and control side to side. Knee points forward, knee above the ankle. Now once you've done that a couple times, what I'll do from here is step forward, maybe take a little bit wider of a stance. I'm going to push my hands down into the main sling to keep my shoulders engaged so that this isn't coming up into my armpits. So shoulders back and down. I'm going to lean into the right side. Now I'm getting a little bit more stretch on that left leg, inner thigh and hamstrings. Tailbone is pointing straight down. I'm going to push back from here and go over to the other side. So I've just deepened that stretch that I was doing before. So now I'm coming back and forth a few times on this side. Once you've kind of warmed up into this a little bit, you can kind of go straight over through the center. This is an even deeper stretch a little bit right here. We can go back and forth. Then slowly from here, bringing your feet back in together and walking yourself all the way back on up. All right? So that would be your first little series. Just a couple little hip openers, a couple little dynamic movements to get your body moving, get your blood flowing. Second exercise I'm going to do is to open up the hip flexor. So I'm going to maintain this main sling behind my rib cage, step my right foot forward, my left foot is going to take a big step back, and I'm going to lower down into a lunged position. So that back knee is coming on the floor. Front leg can kind of take a step forward, and I'm going to lean into that front leg. So now what this sling is doing, it's around the back of my rib cage, lifting the rib cage up so that you get that extension, hip flexor is opening here. And you can kind of open your heart forward, hips pushing down and forward. Notice my front knee directly above the ankle. So staying here to open up the hip flexors for the stretch. Once you've taken a couple breaths right here, nice long relaxed exhales, pushing back, and you can just switch sides right from the floor. Switch to the other side, other knee comes out in front. Same idea, push the hips down and forward, shoulders back. Opening up the hip flexors, opening up the front of the body on the other side. And then on an exhale, slowly coming back from here. And we can go ahead and walk this all the way back on up. My next stretch is going to be a little more of a hamstring stretch this time. So I'm going to be coming into a thigh hold position. What that means is I'm going to take the main sling and push it down so that I can take my right leg and I'm going to step my right leg on top of it. So from here, I'm going to hold either the wrist straps. You can put your hands in the wrist straps and hold on, or you can hold the top of the sling. Okay, either way is fine. But what you're going to do from here is you're going to start to lean your body forward, coming into this kind of floating lunge position. All right, we can take a second here, still kind of opening through the hips. I like to kind of see if I can move that top knee out to the side, slowly come back. I'm staying very active in my back leg. So my left knee is lifted, pushing back into my left heel. From there, what I like to do, walk your hands down a little bit, bring that back knee down onto the ground. Now you can extend that front leg. Another thing you can do is bring that sling more towards your ankle. And you can even kind of open it up and have it cover more of your leg. And then start to lean your hips forward. So getting that nice deep stretch right into the belly of the hamstrings. And if you want to with this one, you can as well. Open it out to the side. Slowly come back to center. Just make sure you're staying balanced. The goal with this one is that the hips are squared off. So my back hip is pushing forward. Now if this is a really intense, my leg is pretty high on this one. You can lower the sling down and make that a little bit easier, little less intense of a stretch if you want it, if this is too high for you. The other thing you can do here if you want, let's say you want more of a stretch. So now I'm going to take this sling down and I'm just going to have it around my ankle only. Because now it's from here, this is going to require a lot more control on my part to hold in this stretch. So either way, you kind of choose your level with how deep of a stretch you want to do. When you're ready to come out, pull that underneath your knee, reach up, here's some arm strength, a little bit of a pull up to come back to standing. Okay, and then we're going to step out from there. Now let's go ahead and try that on the other side just so that we're even. Pushing the hammock down, get your leg on top, holding the top of the hammock. We're going to lean forward. Oops, I'm a little off center. And we're going to come into our thigh hold position right here. Getting into that stretch. Okay, shoulders are back and down away from the ears. So I'm never just flopping my body down into the stretch. I'm always staying engaged. I'm always lifting my heart. My shoulders are back and down. Again, you can open that leg out to the side, little hip opener. Slowly come back to the center. Back leg is staying activated, so lifting the back knee, pushing into the heel. Now if I want a little bit more, if I want to go hamstrings, I'm going to walk myself down. Back knee comes on the ground. And here you choose, depending on your flexibility, how far out you want to go. It may be that I'm just covering the knee. And I'm just here, okay? And if you want a little bit more, move that a little bit further down the leg. So it's always up to you. I always like to have it a little bit more open for this stuff because it provides a little bit more support than having it all bunched up in one place. The other really important thing is that you're never just putting it all underneath your knee right here because this isn't very much support. So you always want it to cover above and below a joint. All right, then when you're ready to come up from here, let's bend that leg. Use those arms, shoulders back and down. You're going to pull yourself back on up. Take that leg out. Okay. So now, after we've done those stretches, And I'm going through these a little bit quicker than you would do if you're on your own. I would want to stay in each stretch for at least about 30 seconds to really get into it, really extend your exhales, relax your body. This is what happens when we're coming into a split in the air. I'm going to take this hammock behind my rib cage. I'm going to walk backwards, create that tension. Maintaining tension here, I'm going to start to walk forward, coming down until I'm directly underneath my plumb line, okay? That's going to stop you from swinging too much when you get your feet up off the ground. So now, I'm going to take one side loop, I'm going to pull it down, I'm going to step my leg through it like I'm putting on a pair of pants. And I'm going to take it up to about mid-thigh to start with. So no matter what your split looks like, whether you have a very small split or you can go into full extension, doesn't matter. We're all going to start right here, under the middle of your thigh. With your hands, you're going to hold on to the strap that is touching your inner thigh. So we're going to hold the inside ones. Now this is a little bit of preparation work. Shoulders are back and down. We're going to lift up. You're going to extend your legs out to the sides. Okay? And now here you can also kind of use the ground as well. If you're close enough, you can have your feet down on the floor, engaging through the legs, lifting the heart up. Okay? The idea here, the reason that we're doing this is because we're learning to keep the pelvis directly over our center point. What's very common in splits is that we're kind of here in this crunched position. So we want to be able to have the legs apart, lift the heart, shoulders back and down, maintain this extension through the spine. So this is why no matter how good of a split you have, I want you to come here. And I want you to learn this first. Abs are engaged, belly button pulls up, slowly coming down. Now you can make that a little conditioning exercise. You can use your arms here because you're going to do a pull-up with your arms, coming into that position, and then slowly come back down. So this is kind of a warm-up for those middle splits. So now let's say from here, I want to get into a little bit more of a split. So we can start to move these down. I'm going to start by bringing it about mid-calf, mid-thigh. All right? Same principle applies. The lower down this goes on your leg, the deeper of a split you're going to have. Now I like these, what I call low-flying exercises, because if you start to swing like I just did, you just reach down, touch the floor, and center yourself. So we're starting in the middle. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing. A little bit deeper stretch this time. Lift up with the arms. Shoulders back and down away from the ears. Lifting your body up, extending the legs out to the side. Getting a little bit wider split. Now I can pull my body up. The more I use my arms, the less pressure there is on those hips. But as I start to gently release down, I can release into my stretch. Now what's really cool about doing an aerial split is that you have the pelvis in alignment and we don't have this kind of rolled under thing going on. So it's a little bit easier if you can pull up with your arms to get into that nice straight split. Coming back down. So now let's say you're a little bit more flexible. You can bring this down more towards your ankles and your calves right here. Okay? So from this position, this is about as far as I go. Even if you have a full split, this is about as far as I take it. Because if you go out all the way here, I just feel like it's really too much to be able to control. So about here. Okay, so people with a full split, lift, exhale, relax down into that. Okay, this is kind of the deepest split stretch that you're going to get. So you want to warm yourself up into that. That stretch is not for everybody. Now let's say you want to do a front split. Here's the trick with the front split. If I leave it here on my legs, this is what's going to happen when I turn to the side. See how my back knee just bent down? So now I'm not getting the full extension of that back leg. So what we need to do, whichever leg is going to go in the back, I'm going to lift that sling up a little bit higher. I want to get it above and below the knee joint. Okay? This one is going to be around my calf. So I'm going to lift up, and while I'm pulled up, I'm going to turn towards the right. So I'm going to pull, turn to the right. So now this is supporting under the back knee, so it's easier for me to keep this knee lifted. This back leg is very engaged. I'm going to turn my chest, so my heart is kind of facing my big toe on that right side. And then slowly releasing, coming down. We're going to switch. Other side, other side. Stop yourself if you're spinning. And then you're going to pull up, open out the other way. Okay, again, this is a very intense stretch. This is not for everybody. You want to make sure that you have done all of those other stretches first before you come into this one. You want to be comfortable with all those other stretches before you go into that last one I just did. When you're coming out, walking back, coming straight on up. And that is your sequence for stretching your splits.